So, if superheroes had domain expansions, this is what it would look like. In today's video, we're going to explain realistic domain concepts for Superman, Batman, and other iconic heroes. By the end, you can let me know if you think it was accurate to Jujutsu Kaisen, and also feel free to let me know your own ideas down below, but it has to be for comic book characters. Okay, so starting off with Batman, aka Bruce Wayne, this is a character who doesn't have powers, but still finds a way to defeat aliens, superhumans, and gods. Now, yeah, part of the reason he can do this is because he's a billionaire with unlimited funds, but you have to admit that his brain and his strategy, that is a pretty significant part as well. From Batman's perspective, everyone has a weakness, no matter how powerful they might be, and so finding those weaknesses is basically his full-time job. For that reason, the name for his domain expansion is Infinite Prep Time, and if I had to describe it in one sentence, it's a domain that can even the playing field between Batman and any opponent. In this example, we can see that he's about to face off against Gojo, and overall, I say there are three main reasons why Bruce has a chance of winning. Reason number one, as soon as Bruce opens his domain, a lifetime's worth of information goes flowing into his head, and to be specific, it's information about his opponent. To put it another way, when Bruce is in this space, it's as if he spent his whole life preparing for this one fight, and so he's going into it knowing everything he needs to know. The end result is that Bruce has intricate knowledge of Gojo's strengths and weaknesses, and on top of that, he has a Shikigami called Alfred. If you've ever seen a Batman cartoon or a movie, you know that Alfred is his loyal butler who's been with him basically his entire life. In Jujutsu Kaisen, I thought it would be funny if Alfred was his Shikigami, and basically the way this works is that Bruce has made a binding vow. The binding vow states that Bruce can never summon Alfred outside of this domain, but the benefit is that Alfred is the second reason, in my opinion, why I think that Batman can beat Gojo. To put it simply, the way I imagined it is that Batman's normal technique is called gadget creation, and basically the way it works is that he can convert curse energy to create just small devices like the Bat Boomerang and things like that, things that you would typically see in a Batman movie. Now, what Alfred does is he takes this to the next level inside the domain, as he's able to generate any curse tool that Batman wants him to make, but he can only do it one time. Because Bruce has a lifetime's worth of knowledge, he knows exactly what he needs to defeat whoever's in front of him. And so, in this situation against Gojo, Batman would ask for the Inverted Spear of Heaven. As a reminder, the Inverted Spear of Heaven is the weapon that can negate curse techniques, and it's what Toji used to break through Gojo's infinity. In fact, in Gojo's entire life, it was the only curse tool that came close to killing him, and so yeah, that would be the weapon that Batman would choose. Now, so far, we haven't spoken about the domain's guaranteed hit, and the name of it is Cursed Energy Lock. The way it works is that Bruce's curse energy levels become linked with his opponent, meaning that no matter how much curse energy they have, they can only tap into the same amount as Batman. In practice, what this means is that if Gojo's curse energy is up here, then while Gojo's inside Infinite Prep Time, he can only tap into this much. Like, even though he has all of this, he can only use this. If Batman was a character in Jujutsu Kaisen, I think he'd have roughly the same amount of curse energy as Nanami or someone like that, and considering that he would have opened a domain, I say that Bruce's curse energy levels would be about like 10% of what Gojo can normally do, so it would be a really big reduction. At the same time, I guess the weakness of this effect is that when you're facing someone who's very efficient with their curse energy, someone like Gojo, someone like Sukuna, they can do a lot with not much curse energy. So, even with curse energy lock, Gojo still has a chance. Gojo can still win here. He just might not be able to open his domain because domains do take a lot of curse energy. In a way, that does still even the playing field between Gojo and Batman, and I would imagine that Gojo would have to rely a lot more on hand-to-hand combat instead of relying on long-range attacks. This would definitely be an advantage for Batman because, I haven't read the comics or anything, but I do know that Batman knows like basically every martial arts style in the world or something like that. So yeah, in hand-to-hand combat, I'm pretty sure Batman would win. Moving on, the next hero is Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, aka the face of the MCU. Even though he is another billionaire genius, I have to say his domain, it couldn't be more different to Batman. The name for Iron Man's domain is Avengers Quantum Protocol, and when it's open, Tony has full control over the Quantum Realm. The Quantum Realm is a super tiny dimension that exists in the MCU, and during Avengers Endgame, it was Tony who figured out how to use it to time travel. In that movie, basically all of the living Avengers went into the quantum realm to travel back in time, and their mission was to get all of the Infinity Stones. What was interesting though, and what's important to this domain, is that when they went back in time, they were obviously there for quite a while because, things went wrong, and by the time they came back to the present day, only 1 minute had passed. Avengers Quantum Protocol uses the same concept, because in the seconds after he opens it, Tony then travels back in time and recruits other Avengers to fight alongside him. For the person trapped in the domain, I guess it's Sukuna in this example, for that person, it doesn't look like anything happened. Tony just disappears and reappears within a split second. But obviously, it took a lot longer than that to go back in time and basically convince people to join him in this fight. Because Tony's a smart person, he's not going to recruit the exact same people every time, but what he is going to do is he's going to examine what he knows about his opponent, and then he'll choose the right Avengers who have the right skill set to defeat that opponent. This means that every time he uses Avengers Quantum Protocol, the lineup's going to be different. He's not going to have the same team every time. And in this example, he has Hulk for his raw strength, he has Thor for long-range attacks and also super strength, and he has Captain America for strategy and, you guessed it, super strength. In terms of the sure hit effect, the name for it is Nanotech Ambush, and within this domain, all it means is that Tony can morph these nanobots into any shape he wants. The nanobots can then be used to attack his opponents and just wear them down, while the Avengers hopefully finish off the job. I guess the weakness of this domain is that nanotech it's not a fatal attack or anything. All it can really do is keep enemies away and maybe damage them a little bit, but its main purpose is to protect Tony and to wear his enemies down. As a side note, I don't think that Tony has a curse technique outside of this domain. So, just like Hikari, I think the domain is how he would use his power. And outside of the domain, nothing much really. He would just have his Iron Man suits. Anyway, up next we have Doctor Strange, who in his prime was the Sorcerer Supreme and the wielder of the Time Stone. I'm gonna be honest, it's been a while since I've watched either of his movies, but the reason I wanted to include him is that Strange has a huge connection to the multiverse. In the MCU, Strange has been to multiple different realities and other dimensions, but most importantly for this video, his magic has the potential to summon people from other realities. For that reason, his domain is called Sanctum of the Multiverse, and it plays into both his multiversal experiences and also his experiences with controlling time. As soon as he opens the domain, Strange can see millions of possible futures, some futures in which he wins and other futures in which he loses. In his head, Strange is then able to select one of those futures, preferably a future in which he wins, and this is when the domain sure hit activates. The way it works is that the future Strange has chosen is not guaranteed to happen, but the domain will keep resetting time until it does. Essentially, it's a time loop that keeps his opponent trapped, and it still works even when Strange is killed. For example, let's just say that Kenjaku was to open his own domain in response, and kill Strange with one of his many techniques. In that scenario, the time loop would then kick in, and it would reset things to the moment that Strange opened his domain. Both Strange and Kenjaku would have full memories of what happened before, but they're forced to just keep fighting until the future he selected happens in real life. This is the same strategy that he used in the first movie, because when he faced off against Dormammu, he basically wore him down mentally by making him relive the same moment thousands of times. However, this domain isn't exactly the same, because if Strange gets killed 100 times inside this domain, then he can summon a Shikigami named Thanos the Divine General. This Shikigami is one that exists in the multiverse, and the only way Strange was able to tame it was by making a binding vow. The binding vow states that Strange has to die 100 times in a row, and only in that scenario is he able to summon the Shikigami. As you can see, this version of Thanos has all of the Infinity Stones, and he's fully under Strange's control while he's in the Sanctum. Effectively, it means that Strange himself has control of the Infinity Stones, and in this scenario, he can dust whoever's in front of him, whether it's Kenjaku, whether it's Sukuna. The power level doesn't really matter, because in this scenario, he can just kill whoever he wants. Lastly, the final domain belongs to Superman, and its name is Fortress of the Yellow Sun. You can probably tell the name was inspired by the Fortress of Solitude, which is the base that was given to him by his real biological parents, but it's like in Antarctica. I don't know the full lore as to how it got to Earth and everything like that, but yeah, what we know is that it's the main base of Superman on Earth. For Kryptonians like Superman, a yellow sun is what makes them so powerful, and it's even able to heal them after they've been hit by a nuke. As a result, this domain takes things a step further because not only does it heal Superman, but in this space he gets a major boost in stats. This stat boost is bigger than what you usually get from a domain, and for Superman specifically, it makes his body immune to kryptonite. As long as the domain is open, his biggest weakness suddenly becomes irrelevant, and I guess tactically speaking, he could use this in a fight against Batman. So if Batman had whipped out a kryptonite spear or a kryptonite ring or a kryptonite bullet, Superman could open his domain and all of those weapons would become useless. On top of that, I was thinking that his heat vision could be upgraded to soul-splitting heat vision, and this is important because his heat vision is the guaranteed hit of the domain. In JJK, soul damage is 1,000,000 times worse than physical damage, because physical damage you can at least heal that with reverse curse technique, but soul damage, as we saw with Junpei, as we saw with Mekamaru, it's something that only Mahito can fix. Protecting your soul is also something that many sorcerers and people just don't know how to do, and although Nanami did briefly do it when he fought against Mahito for the first time, the fact is that most sorcerers are not trained in the shape of their soul. This means that Superman having soul-splitting heat vision, it gives him a huge advantage over like 90% of the cast, and the great thing about soul-based attacks is that it doesn't matter how tough you are physically. By the way, one other upgrade that I thought could be interesting is if Superman's X-ray vision was enhanced as well, to the point where he could detect your exact curse energy levels and also the exact details of your technique. After saying that, I did realize that this is exactly what this 6 eyes does, so Superman would get like a temporary 6 eyes that would wear off once his domain is closed. With that said, my friends, those were all of the domains for this video, and if you have any ideas for superhero domains, or even just a domain name for a specific superhero, then please leave it down in the comments below. Also, don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more Jujutsu Kaisen videos, as right now I'm working on a couple of them that I think should be pretty interesting. As always, thank you for watching, and until the next one, peace out.